thanks for joining Soflex Math today. Today we're going to work on more dividing of decimals here in lesson 2. And this time we have a little bit different problems. Last unit and last lesson we had just whole numbers that we were in the divisor. Now we're going to be working on what do we do. There's a new rule when we have a decimal as a divisor and a decimal as the dividend. So our goal is to get a whole number on the outside. So instead of a decimal out here, we want to get to a whole number. So what we're going to do is whatever we do to the outside, we have to do to the inside to make it fair. So in this case, we're going to move our decimal one spot to the right so that this becomes the whole number 4. Okay, so if we did that here, we're going to have to do the same thing on this section. So in this case, we're going to have 0, and then we move it over, so it's going to be 1.6. or 1 6/10. Okay, how can we do this? What are we really doing? Well, when we move our decimal point, all we're really doing is multiplying each of these by 10. So as long as we do the same thing, it's fair. Okay, so it's not just magically, oh, we can move things around, move decimal points whenever we want. As long as we're multiplying by 10, in this case, we can do that. So we now have a new division problem. So we have 1 6/10 divided by 4. All right, so we say how many 4s can fit into 1? 0. We're going to move our decimal straight up. So now it's like the decimal's gone. How many 4s can go into 16? And we have 4. So our answer, 0 4/10 times 4 is 1 6/10, working backwards to check our work. So as you can see, look at the way this happened. So we had an original problem, it was all decimals, and then we got rid of our decimal, we moved our decimal, and then we divided like we did in the previous problems where we were dividing by whole numbers. So 0 4/10. So let's look at those steps again with our next one. So 0 28/100 divided by 7. I'm sorry, 7/10. So same thing, we're going to move our decimal one spot, move our decimal one spot. What have we done? We've multiplied each of those by 10. So by 10 and by 10. So that begins our new problem. And even though it's a new problem, it's the same answer. So in other words, if you were to type in 0 16/100 divided by 0 4/10 in the calculator, you would get the answer up here of 0 4/10. If you then, you can check this on your own, type in 1 6/10 divided by the whole number 4, you're going to get the same answer of 0 4/10. So you can check it on a calculator just to kind of see what's happening, because it's a little bit tricky to wrap your mind around it, how we move a decimal, but we can still have the same answers. Okay, because basically we have a small part divided by a small part, and then we have a little bit of a bigger part divided by a bigger part. All right, so if we divide this, so 2 8/10. So how many 7s can go into 2? None. Move your decimal straight up. How many 7s go into 28? And that answer is 4. Okay, and if you multiplied it out, 4 times 7 is 28. You could see that as well to kind of check your work. Okay, remember, once you move your decimal up, now it's just like a fact family, 28 divided by 7 and 4. So we're really doing the same things we did during dividing. We're just kind of rearranging some numbers a little bit so they're easier to work with. So we're going to try a few more just to make sure you got it before we set you on your own to practice. So with these two examples, you can see that we have a few more place values. That's all I've added in. So now we have 0 and 0.9, or 0 and 9/100 divided by 0 and 3/10. So step 1, make the outside divisor a whole number. Okay, step 2, do the same thing on the inside. So in this case, our new number is just going to be 0 and 9/10. Move our decimal straight up is step 3. So we do all those steps before we divide. So 3 into 0, 3 into 9 is 3. And remember, for this one, we're just multiplying each of those by 10. That's the rule. That's how you get to move decimals equal amounts. Okay, let's try our next one. Let's move our 9 over. This time we move the decimal only over 1. So this time our goal is to have a whole number on the divisor, and we did that. And this time, we're going to have 0 and 81/100ths. So notice how it's a little different than what we had to start with. Okay, 0, bring your decimal up. 0 again, because remember, 9 cannot fit into 8, but 9 can fit into 81, which is 9, and notice how it ends in that same place value. So, to review these two, we had 0 and 9/100ths divided by 0 and 3/10 is equal to 0 and 3/10. And then same with this one. 0 and 81/1000ths divided by 9/10 is the same as 0 and 81/100ths divided by the whole number 9. Either way, we're going to get the same answer of 0 and 9/100ths. Okay, so hopefully you're following along nicely with this. We're going to do one last one. This one's a little trickier, so let's see if we can make these connections. All right, so the reason that this one's a little bit trickier is that we have more than one number on the divisor. So as you can see here, we have 0 and 4/100ths. So we have 2 decimal places in the divisor, and then we have 3 in the dividend. All right, so we're going to have to make sure that we deal with this. So in this time, we're going to have to move it not one spot, but 2. So when we do that, each spot we move is by a 10. Or in this case, 10 times 10, 100. So we're multiplying 0 and 4/100ths times 100. And if you did that in a calculator, or you do that off to the side, you know you're going to get a whole number of 4. And that's what we want. We always want a whole number as our divisor. Well, if we moved it 2 spots on the outside, we have to move it 2 spots on the inside. And notice how each one we've multiplied by 100. Each spot is a 10. Multiply by another 10. If we kept going, it would be multiplying by 10s again. Okay, so if we move that, our decimal becomes here. So our new number is now the whole number, 16 and 4/10. All right, and now we're going to go ahead and work on our division. So we're just going to say how many 4s can go into 16. 4. And we'll multiply that out. And bring down our next number, 4. And remember, we're going to bring our our decimal directly up. And then how many 4s can go into 4? 1. So the answer to this whole problem is 4 and 1/10. So however many decimal places you're moving it on the outside to get a whole number, you have to do to the inside is kind of the rule there. So hopefully you've been able to follow along, give it a good practice, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Thanks for watching Soflex Math.